Hi, good afternoon, Co-Banker George. Thank you for coming to the Lunch and Learn. Today we are honored to have Ann Cho and also Linda from Top Escrow to talk to you about anything about escrow, but afraid to ask. Okay, so then why don't you just take it away?
Okay.
Okay, now I'm gonna share your screen.
Okay.
You're gonna
Hi,
be over there.
everyone. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Yeah.
I'll line it up.
Okay.
We're gonna line it up so she can stand up, so bear with us and let me share her screen. I will get it to you. I gotcha.
Okay, there.
Okay, so.
Turn the light off.
Yeah.
Better, right? Can everybody see?
Okay.
Okay, and then you'll need to scroll.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to my office. And
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, we're gonna get started. Okay, well, thank you for the ones that are here in person. I have lunch for me and Linda brought lunch for everyone.
Thank
So today we're gonna do some basic information about escrow. We're gonna make it, we'll run through the slides very quickly and then we'll do some Q&A with Linda. Like I said, I brought Linda today. She is a senior escrow officer manager. She has over 30 years of experience. So she's like the brain. So, you know, I have knowledge, but any intricate, creative type of deal putting, I call her. So like I said, if you call me, you will know. I get her to get on the phone. But like I said, we're here for you guys. But we're gonna start with our presentation. It's called Escrow Connection, the bridge to your escrow transaction. Okay, now let's start. So quickly, we're gonna go. Oh, come on, just scroll down. Yeah, scroll. Yeah, okay. So this is an overview of what we're gonna discuss. Why choose our escrow company? So as you guys know, there's a lot of different escrow companies out there. There are ones that are like DFPI, also governed by the Department of Real Estate and also Department of Insurance. So we will go over that. We're gonna kind of go over what an escrow is, what the role of an escrow officer is, also some red flags in escrow that we believe may delay your escrow. So we want to show you guys how to get behind that and get in front of it actually before it becomes like more of a red flag. Closing costs, who pays for it, some tax information. Okay, so let's get started. So first, we're going to talk about why choose our escrow company. Okay, a couple things that we like to highlight is that we develop better ways to deliver our escrow services through innovation and technology. So I'm not sure if you have worked with our escrow company. We are kind of up to date in our time. So a lot of our escrow opening packages like go out by DocuSign. It makes it very convenient for clients, you know, so we do that kind of service and we're very communicative in our escrow transaction. Also, we facilitate smooth closings and our 100% customer satisfaction focus. All of our employees are fingerprinted and have done a background check with the Department of Justice. So that actually makes you guys should make your clients feel very safe. We are governed by the DFPI and that's one of the requirements. So we know that we don't have any employees that have any, you know, fraud type background and stuff, okay? Also, we are creative problem solvers who provide timely, responsive, quality service at competitive rates. We meet all California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation requirements, including our financial liquidity, net worth, and annual audits. Also, not only we have our trust accounts and funds on deposit that is insured by the FDIC, but we also have the cyber insurance in place to insure against cyber hacking. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a lot of phishing emails that go, you know, that happen on the internet. A lot of agents get it and so does escrow. So we do have insurance and we do train our employees quarterly about, you know, cyber hacking and how to prevent email phishing. Okay. Okay, so next we're going to go into what is escrow. So the reason why we titled it, we are the bridge to your escrow transaction. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but escrow is the one company in the real estate transaction that touches everybody in the deal. And you can tell in this little thing, there's escrow. We talk to the buyer, the seller, the listing agent, the selling agent. We talk to the loan officer, the loan broker, the lender. We talk to the termite company. We talk to insurance. We talk to home work. We actually are, involved in every aspect. So for us, we highly encourage agents to build a relationship with your escrow officer and your escrow company before you get an offer. You don't, build the relationship before, because this will help. But as I said, when you have that relationship and you get into escrow, it's easier for you to pick up the call and be like, hey, Ann, or hey, Linda, you have my deal, what's going on? But we will have our hand on the pulse. We'll know because we're talking to everyone. We're most likely the first to know when a loan goes sideways, or maybe the buyer can't perform, or something's missing. So, like I said, we highly encourage you guys to communicate with us even before you guys have a deal. Okay, we want to be your friends too, right? Okay. Next, we're going to go over, okay, some of the things that escrow is not responsible for, okay? So these are some of the things that a lot of times people that don't have a lot of transactions or aren't that familiar with the escrow transaction, sometimes we'll get calls and they'll tell us, oh, can you order the appraisal? Well, we're just escrow. We're neutral third party. We talk to the lender and we'll ask them, did you order the appraisal? But so these are some of the things. We don't process the buyer's loan. We don't issue or underwrite title insurance, okay? We make decisions on the items provided to title and the lender. We don't give any tax or legal advice. We don't mediate or arbitrate any disagreement between any of the parties, okay? We don't prepare unilateral amendments or instructions without other parties knowing approval. We don't take verbal instructions. We don't order repairs to be made on the property. We don't give advice regarding vesting or taking title to the property. We don't guarantee the correctness or the completeness of any HOA docs ordered by the seller, and we don't deliver keys to the property. So these are certain things that sometimes people may think that we do, but like I said, we're just a third party, neutral third party that handles the transaction and makes sure the funds from the buyer gets transferred to the seller at the same time the deed from the seller gets recorded to the buyer. Okay. Okay. So the escrow process, pretty simple in hindsight, or, just kind of overviewing, but essentially what happens is on a sale, we open escrow by you guys sending us the fully executed contract, and we prepare the escrow instructions and all the pertinent documents. We open title, and title will provide us with the preliminary title report. We will assist on following up and getting financing. We'll finding out status of the financing for the buyer, and just make sure that the lender is scheduled, and make sure they're getting everything in a timely manner, and essentially get them to get to loan docs. We will prepare all the documentation for the seller to transfer the property, which is like the grant deed. Sometimes there's interceding documents that may need to be notarized by title. And then we also make sure all the funds from the buyer do come to escrow. And then we will make sure at the time of closing that the exchange happens in the correct way, right? The buyer will fund the loan, the lender will fund the loan, and then we set up recording, and then we record the file. But essentially, we are the middle person, right? So we obtain the document, like the invoices from insurance, from home warranty, the CDA, if your broker does provide that, we get all of that. So essentially, we handle the transaction, and we just make sure everything goes as planned and everyone follows with the terms and agreements that they made in the contract. Okay. Okay, so what is the role of the escrow officer? Okay, so here are some of the things. We process the escrow, and we handle the funds and documents from start to finish. We're responsible for preparation and processing of a significant amount of paperwork. I think outside of, I think it's loan docs have the most set of, documents, right? Then real estate brokers, you guys have all the disclosures, and then there's the other set, which is all the escrow stuff. We facilitate the request, delivery, and signing of the documents. We comply with local, county, state, and federal requirements. So things like if you're in the city of LA, you guys are aware, right? There's one report. You guys know what that report is?
980.
Correct. So things like that, depending on the area, we will comply with that city or county, also state, like state for California. Each transaction, we are required to give the seller what form to complete. Do you guys know for the state of California? It's from the franchise tax board,
Yeah.
the California real estate withholding, right? So those are things from the state that we have to comply with. Also, we work with the buyer's mortgage broker and or lender. We request closing funds from the buyer and also from the lender to fund. We authorize release and record of documents. Primary party responsible for all, we do all the accounting for the escrow transaction and the disbursement. We also ensure that the property is free and clear, if that's part of the agreement with the contract, right, to deliver to the buyer, free and clear of title. And again, we're a neutral third party, okay? Okay, so red flags. So these are some things, I don't want to say they're red flags, but I want to say these are things that are good for us to know before we get into escrow. Like I said, you want to get ahead of the curve, right? So some of the things that can delay, and that's why we always ask that you guys contact like Linda or me ahead of time. So let's just say you're about to get, you're talking with the client and you're going to get a listing, but they're out of the country and it's a power of attorney. I would call Linda. Linda, I'm going to get this transaction. My seller is out of the country. His son is going to be the power of attorney. Well, Linda will help guide. First, we'll ask, well, has the power of attorney been created? If not, then that's a conversation you can have with Linda, and then we can prepare that for you guys, right? But essentially just preparing to know what the workarounds are or what hiccups there may be, right? Power of attorney too, sometimes some lenders, right, Linda? Some lenders might not approve it, right? Yes. So these are things that Linda will ask, and this is why I love talking to her. When you have an issue, she will bring up the questions and I'll be like, oh, I didn't think of that. Well, guess what? Now she's helped me think of a question that I need to do, and I can prepare before you get into the transaction, and then you're like chasing your tail, right? Things like, are any of the vested owners deceased? Okay. Or incapacitated, like in jail, right? Right? So, but these are things that life happens,
Yeah.
right? So life happens, but things have to keep going. So situations like these call us ahead of time. Have any of the principals recently filed bankruptcy? Okay. Has there been a change in marital status of either buyers or sellers? Okay. Is the property currently vested in a trust? So I think about that first one about the marital status is right. It's like if they're divorced, right, Linda? Right? If they potentially are divorced, or maybe they're single and then they just got married. Okay. Is the property currently vested in a trust? Okay. So a lot of people put their property in trust. There are additional things that happen in escrow and title when the property is in a trust. Then there's another layer. If it's a trust for the person that originated the trust, or is it a successor trustee, meaning, the original trustee passed away. So depending on that, there are different things that need to be done, okay? And I think talking to us and getting prepared makes you guys look like a rock star to your client too, right? Finding out all this stuff and then going back to your client and saying, okay, well, we're gonna need this stuff. And letting you guys know that during the transaction when we're in escrow, they're going to ask you for the trust agreement. Let's give it to me now, right? Then they're going to be like, oh, wow, my agent's really knowing what they're going to ask me ahead of time. And like I said, it'll make you guys look good to your client. Is there a life estate in place?
The life is the same.
Life estate is more like, Linda, life estate is not a trust, right? Is it?
No, life estate is, is your right to stay in the property
Right.
as long as you're alive.
Right.
This is the life
Yeah, I
estate.
do see that happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what they do all the time.
No, they, no, you give somebody the life estate, that means you give them the right
The
to
right.
stay in the property as long as they are alive.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do see that happen.
Yeah, you do see that happen, not very often, but.
Yeah, I'll explain to you.
So if you have that, owner have that, what do you need to do?
Well, then you have to get his consent.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he gets to live there.
Then you have to honor the life estate. So you're not buying the whole, fee simple, you're buying on subject to the estate.
Life estate.
Life estate.
And then we need a document regarding the life estate, or did she pay rent or something like
So
that.
if she has life estate, then that means she has the right to stay at the property
So,
as
yeah,
long as she's alive. So
Yeah.
then if that's the case, you're trying to sell the property,
with that,
then there have to be some kind of agreement that she is,
She's entitled.
maybe
Yeah,
some
either
kind of
willing
arrangement to move out.
or.
There's a attorney will have to help you with those kind of agreements.
Can we sell, still?
I don't think
without her
anybody will
staying?
buy though.
I know, yeah, yeah. And I
So
think,
if you're buying a property with that, that means that she's gonna stay there
Right.
forever and you just bought the property. I don't think there's gonna be rent involved
But-
because she has the right.
but
Uh-huh.
potentially you could possibly sell it, right? But I think life estate, if that you're only gonna deal with a certain type of category of people. It's
Right.
more the higher
You can
echelon,
sell it,
rich people, right?
You can
The ones that
sell
own like $30 million property gonna give the life estate to their kid, it's not gonna be more with middle
I
class
think
type.
that you can sell it.
Yeah, you
but
probably
sell
can,
it, but-
you can.
it, but you
entitled
have to
to
be
stay
subject
there.
to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be
Right.
subject to that, yeah, okay?
So basically, I know that's a luxury estate.
Yeah,
those people
correct.
high-end.
Correct,
The thing, so definitely, they need a lawyer to sort out everything.
correct, thank you, Jeffrey. Another one, does the transaction involve a short sale? This is important too, because it's good to let us know, oh, this property's in foreclosure, so we know that time is of the essence. Maybe we need to make more phone calls to the lender. Sometimes, like I had an agent, we had an escrow where the seller was in foreclosure. I was already contacting the trustee company before we even had an escrow open, trying to help postpone the sale date. Okay, are there any liens or judgments against the property owners? Sometimes you guys know, sometimes you guys don't know. We sometimes find out when the prelim comes in too. But it's always good to, know if you know ahead of time so we can find out.
But the title.
Yeah, we'll find it too. Is there a foreclosure in process? The same thing. That we would definitely be great to get a phone call from you guys too ahead of time so we know and we can kind of find out. We can find out if a notice of default was recorded or a notice of trustee sale. All of that stuff just to help you too. Has any easements been obtained or given since the purchase of the property? Okay, and those are easements right around the property. So I know one, agent asked me to help their relative. Their relative bought a property in the valley and, the developers ended up giving an easement between her and the neighbor. Anyways, they ended up fighting. Yeah, and trying to get the deed, but things like that, after you purchase, to know, it's good to know, so then we can find out stuff. Are there any encroachments? And then if there is an HOA, and if so, are the dues current? So these are things that are good to know ahead of time, okay?
Okay, so, can I talk
Yeah.
about this? Okay, so there are a few things that, I want to talk about this, like for example, power of attorney. So you have to know your seller. Sometimes the seller, they are not here and they are asking for a power of attorney, but the property might be an LLC. And LLC cannot use power of attorney. They might be in a family trust. Family trust cannot use power of attorney. So then we have to find out what to do in that kind of situation. So make sure you find out their vesting or I'm sure that you get profiles, right? So then you can see what your sellers are. And a lot of times when they are, you're not doing the loans, but they're refinancing with cash out loans, the lender does not allow to use power of attorney. So these are some situations that, you know, you have to kind of pay attention to, when they're using power of attorney. Okay. There was something else that I was gonna say, but that's okay. You can go back.
Okay. Okay, so this one, closing costs, okay, so closing costs in a transaction are, I'm pretty sure you guys all know, but it's on top of or additional, right, to the purchase price, well, outside of the commission, right? So we're gonna go through some of the fees here, okay? A closer look at the closing costs. So the seller can generally be expected to pay these fees, okay? And as you guys know, everything is negotiated. So these are the normal general things, but it can always be different, right? So the seller can generally be expected to pay the owner's title insurance, the escrow fee, the real estate commission, the documentary transfer tax, city transfer tax, like if it's in certain areas of Pomona or like city of LA, there's two types of transfer tax. Payoff of their mortgage, interest accrued from their lender being paid off, which is usually in the payoff statement. Home warranty, but that's only if it's defined in the contract. Like I said, sometimes we'll see a contract where the buyer says they'll pay for the owner's title policy because they want to get the deal. So these are just general norms. Any judgment tax liens against the seller. Tax prorations is going to be dependent on if they paid the taxes or not, how it's going to be handled. Any unpaid HOA dues, recording charges to clear all the documents of record against the seller, any and all delinquent taxes, notary fees if they do notary for their grant deed, HOA documents, HOA transfer fee, messenger fees, and any other items negotiated in the contract. For the buyer, the buyer can generally be expected to pay for lender's title insurance if they are getting a loan. If it's all cash, that wouldn't be in there. The escrow fee, any document preparation fees, notary fees if there are anything that the buyer needs to notarize, recording charges for all the documents in the buyer's names, things like the deed of trust, the grant deed, tax prorations from the date of the close. They will get charged from the day they're closed to the end of that property tax installment period. You know, in California, there's two tax periods, the first and the second. Any new loan charges, interest on the new loan, any inspection fees, home warranty if they agree to that in contract, fire insurance, and messenger fees. And then just a little note, all of the sellers and buyers closing costs listed are negotiable and are defined by the contract between the two parties. So again, it's contractual. These are general guidelines, but sometimes depending on the deal, it may be different. Okay. Okay. Property tax calendar. So you guys know how the taxes, right? There's in the year, there's two tax periods. So this is just kind of an overview of the tax, right? January 1st, the taxes become a lien, okay? And all taxes actually on the property at 12:01 a.m. on the first day, okay, to file. Only because taxes for the first half are due in December, but we'll start with January, okay? February, that's when the second installment is due, okay? The second half of the property taxes, okay? Then on the February 15th, it's considered, that's the last day to pay, okay? Or it's considered late. Or deadline, okay, yeah. Then, oh, I'm sorry, am I wrong? No, second installment is due. Then on April 10th, yeah, that's when it becomes delinquent, I'm sorry. Okay, and then June 1st, they'll mail out delinquent tax bills for the current year and supplementals. And the last day for the property tax period is June 30th. So it's kind of backwards. So the first half is due July 1st. So weird, so it's backwards, okay? And then on October 1st, That's the beginning day of the annual secured tax bill. October 15th is the last day the affidavit and claim for homeowner or renter's assistance may be filed. On October 31st, that's the last day of the annual secured tax mailing. And then on November 1st is the first installment that's due. Then on December 10th, the first installment becomes delinquent. So it's backwards. So right now we're in March, right? So crazy, already almost, yeah.
So I think the important part that you need to remember on this is just that the property tax, the first half falls on the second half of the year.
Yeah.
So that's why it's called 2023-24 taxes, because the first half is the second half of the year, and then the second half is the first half of the following year. Okay, and then the dates you need to remember is that the due date is February 1st and the delinquent date is December 10th. That is on the first half. And then the second half is, oh no, I'm sorry, the first half is, I think is, October 1st or November 1st is the November, the due
Due
date.
date.
And then, December 10th is the delinquent date.
Right.
And then the, second half is February 1st and April 10th is the delinquent date. And I think, that is very common, everybody knows that, just in case if your client is confused on the time period, just remember that the first half falls on the second half of the year, and then the second half falls on the first of the following year.
Okay.
And one thing regarding taxes that I want to remind you is that there are a lot of investors out there, like they're flipping the property maybe, or if your seller just purchased the property not too long ago. For example, they purchased the property last year in maybe October, and now they're selling it. So there might be supplemental taxes that they have to pay. And then it might not come out yet. So remind your seller, if that's the case, they need to maybe save some money on the side to pay for those supplemental taxes, because those will become insecure taxes and it will follow them.
You're right.
Okay.
She's so right. So some clients that we have do flip and they'll buy a property and sell it like within 3 months, 4 months.
Yes.
And by that time, they don't even own the property again, right? They don't own it because they've sold it. And then they get this tax bill, and that's what she's saying. As agents, it's good to educate your clients, and guess what? They'll appreciate you. You know why? Because some people, we have these investors, they'll call us later. How come I'm getting a tax bill? I sold this property. Why am I getting this? I don't own this property. Then we gotta explain to them.
It's not an escrow's job.
Right, but they call us, right? Because we said, we gave them stuff about the tax information, right? They see on the closing statement, there was some property tax proration. But so they typically do contact us. But as agents, for you guys to show your knowledge as well to investors, it's good to educate them on that, right? Like she said, that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
And-
telling them to put money on the side.
And sometimes that you're selling a property that is for example, the seller just deceased. So you're the successor trustee, or you're, and then whenever that we file that whenever we put an affidavit of death of joint tenants or affidavit of joint trustee, it will trigger the reassessment of property. So in that case, you will get a supplement tax bill from the day that person passed to the day of your transfer, and that's the seller's responsibility to pay.
Because of Prop 19.
Wow.
Yeah, so that will come out after the close of
Yeah, I can
escrow.
see that.
So those becomes unsecured, and then they will receive a tax bill, and sometimes they will have a question on that.
Oh,
I
that's
just
neat.
want-
That's
I
good,
just-
good information.
I just wonder, being in the escrow, before the closing of the escrow, do you educate the seller that they will
Well, if I
have-
sign the seller, if I see them, I will tell them.
Mhm.
But I'm not the one who normally like sign them all the time, because sometimes they don't want to come into our office, or they wanted to just go to a UPS store and get it
Right.
notarized.
Right.
So if I don't get to see them or talk to them that much, then I probably won't be able to tell them that.
Yeah.
But especially for trust, how successor trustee, after the funds gets into that trust account, they will disperse that. Then
Right.
if they disperse that and the tax bill come out, who's gonna pay for it?
Right.
So then if I see them, I will tell them that you need to save a little bit of money in that trust account, just in case that supplement tax come out.
Right.
Because, you know, it's easy to give out, but when if you're trying to get those money back from those trustees, the beneficiaries, it's hard.
Right.
When they ask you how much,
Yeah.
they ask you how much do I need to put aside?
Well, it depends. It depends because you know how county reassess, they reassess from the owner when
Right.
the
That's the one.
property tax that they're paying the value, right? Until the day they transfer. So the difference, it depends how long you own the property.
Right, and how much the value, okay,
Thank you.
okay. Okay, so the next one we're gonna lightly touch on is the supplemental taxes, right? So, yeah, a lot of agents, I think a lot of buyers, when they buy, they don't get informed this and then they get the supplemental later and it's just, they get a bad taste in their mouth. So it's good to know about what the supplementals are and educate your buyers that are buying property. But what are the supplemental taxes? Okay, supplemental property taxes were signed into law in 1983. The tax revision was intended to drive tax dollars, right, to aid California schools. They are designated to be a catch-up tax, enabling the tax collector to collect additional tax calculated from the date a homeowner takes title to the property until the new reassessed tax period begins. If the value of the home is greater than the existing tax valuation, a supplemental bill will be issued for the tax on the difference, okay? So what triggers a supplemental tax bill? A change in ownership or the undertaking of new construction. So we're gonna focus on the change of ownership, right? So when we close escrow, you know, the buyer has to complete an escrow, that form called a PCOR, right? That's the preliminary change of ownership report. That is typically goes behind, well, with the grant deed. So when that deed gets recorded, that PCOR gets submitted to the county tax collector, okay? So that's what will trigger a supplemental tax, okay? And then to reassess your property. The taxes become a lien against the property as of the date of ownership change or the date construction is completed. How are the supplemental taxes billed? Okay, supplemental taxes are billed separately from regular property tax, okay? In most cases, you will only receive one supplemental tax bill, which will be divided into 2 installments. The first installment will be due shortly after you receive the bill, and the dates may or may not coincide with your regular tax bill. They do not replace your regular tax installment, and you should expect to receive a regular bill for your standard property tax, okay? So they're gonna get their regular tax bill and then they will, depending on when the tax collector gets it and reassess the property, get a supplemental tax bill, okay? The next one is, will my impound account with the lender cover these taxes? Okay, I just had a buyer call me and ask me that, and I was like, no, you have to pay that separate. And actually, that buyer had 2 separate supplementals, okay? Typically, it's one, but you could get more. So it says you should check with your new lender as soon as you receive your supplemental tax bill. Almost always, the supplemental tax will not be covered by your impound account, but only your lender can advise you on that. But most of the time, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen it in my hand, in my experience. But if they have an impound account for their property tax, just double check with their lender. But that will be a separate bill that you will have to pay outside unless your lender tells you otherwise. Okay, can I change the assessed value of my property? Yes, okay. You will be sent a notification of the new assessed value of your property, and you can file an appeal with the county tax assessor at that time. So,
Those 2 years.
yeah, did you try it? You see, they make it a hard road to climb, huh, to get it. Did you get it though? Wow, 2 years. It's ridiculous. Okay. Okay, and then this is me and Linda. So just so you know, some of the transactions we do all types of escrow transactions. We do commercial, bulk. We of course do residential. We know how to handle foreign national sellers. also know how to handle transactions with 1031 exchange, either seller, buyer, or the reverse 1031 exchange. Manufactured mobile homes, we do seller carryback loans, we can assist with that. We know how to do escrows with short sales, probates, refinances for sell by owners subject to mortgages. We also do, personal property holding escrows too. So if you guys want to take a picture, here's Linda's contact number, her cell phone, and her email address, and also mine. Does anyone have any questions for me or Linda? Or anything to do about escrow in general?
Well, I just do want to do a conclusion. What is the difference between our escrow company and other escrow company? We're convenient, we're compatible, and we're always here. Okay, like as you know, that Ann is a hard worker. Before hour, after hours, I know you guys work hard on the weekends. We're there for you too. So just give us a call whenever you have any question. We'll be there to help you. Okay, and one thing I want to mention is that know who is the authorized signer for your seller. Okay, if they're an LLC, they're in corporation, make sure that you get the documents to know that the person that you speak with is the authorized signer. Okay, and also that sometimes that, seller, they think they know what they're doing. So then they do these accommodation deeds and transfer the names back and forth to different, right? Yeah. And then that becomes a problem with chain of title, when it comes to it, title company will require the affidavit, in order for it to continue the chain. And I have a case that, the stepmom and the son owns a property, and then they pay the stepmom off. So she quit claim, but then they signed an accommodation deed. And then, when the son tried to refinance, she refused to sign again the affidavit. Okay, so in that case, they cannot continue because the title won't insure. So yeah, that will be a problem. So just make sure that, you check the title, very carefully, before, you open, escrow, or, you can contact us. We are always here for you, like whenever, you ask for an estimate, we help you structure the loan. And when I do the estimate, I don't just plug in our fees and give it to you. I pull a profile and I search the report to see if there's any tax delinquency, and, and if there's HOA, and some city, they collect city transfer tax, and city transfer tax are much expensive than the county tax. So those are things that are good to let the sellers know in advance. Okay. Mhm.
Okay, and then we have lunch here for you guys, okay? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Get stuff in before the.
Oh, how do I do that?
And then
I'll get the piece of the pizza.
Let's fix that.
you want a glass of soda?
I do. How you doing though?
Good, good. That's,
I
they call on the
was
carpet.
wondering under what kind of situation that would get the two supplemental tax?
We had to happen to Angel. Angel, it happened to him.
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Right.
Linda,
Yeah,
you want some soda?
I'm sorry, no, I'm fine. Yeah, it depends on how county reassess the property.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes they,